Excellent. So we're ready to start. The session will take place in English and Arabic. Backgrounds: an engineer, the mayor of Baghdad; a businessman, the mayor of Tanger; a business administrator and controller, the mayor of Cologne; an economist, but also trained nurse, the mayor of Turku. But they're all here as mayors. And it is no coincidence that this table about climate change gives the full stage to mayors, because cities are at the forefront of the climate crisis. The climate crisis, which is the defining issue of our age, is completely conditioning life in the cities. And cities administrations and mayors have understood it, I would say, much better than nations and much better than businesses, at least if we judge by their actions. For too many years, we've been trapped in an, I would say, unproductive debate. One which was saying, should cities focus on adapting to how climate is changed? Or should they devote all their forces to stopping what's happening, to mitigating the effects? That debate did not age well, and the reason it didn't is because climate change is not the future, it's the present, it's happening, its effects are already with us. And therefore, there is no alternative to doing both, adapting and mitigating the effects of climate change. So it's particularly interesting to have this debate here, because 3 of the world's most affected and fragile sub-regions or ecoregions are very well represented. The Middle East has experienced faster growth in temperature than anywhere else in the world. The Sahel, also represented here, is already the region with the most climate migration and some of the worst effects of climate change. And the Mediterranean, the region that Europeans and Arabs share, where we meet, is again one of the ecosystems, one of the areas which is already the most affected by climate change. And it's a constant reminder that we, Arabs and Europeans, are in it together. When the metropolitan area of Valencia was devastated by floods in November, who was not remembering the disaster in Derna in Libya a year before? When forest fires hit Algeria, the images were reminiscent of Greece. When we think about the salinization of the Ebro Delta, we remember much bigger salinization is happening in the Nile Delta. And I could go on talking about drought, about these massive freak episodes of hail. They are the same. We are suffering the same disaster, really, the same climate crisis. So there is no question that we're in it already. The question is, what are cities doing? And that's the panel of today. We're going to talk about their actions. Perhaps our panelists want also to talk about their funding strategies. Importantly, also their partnerships. Who do we need at the table to deal with these issues? And also about collaboration. In order to do this, we will go through a first round where the panelists, the mayors, will have the opportunity to very briefly introduce their city, but more importantly, the actions that the city is undertaking in the context of the climate crisis. We will follow this by another round with more specific questions so that we cover all the issues at stake. So without further ado, I'll ask the mayor of Baghdad, first of all, to tell us a little bit more about your crisis, your city in the crisis, in the climate crisis, and how are you acting already now? Mayor, the floor is yours.
Fragile infrastructure that we have, limited infrastructure that we have faced a great challenge in order to go further, especially after 2003, after the holy government has been changed in Iraq. So we have faced this challenge today. Baghdad deals with multiple challenges, especially in terms of the changing of climate change. And of course, I will share with you three main components to provide better vision regarding to the west that we have today. Baghdad, we have 10,000 tons of waste has been collected with a very lack of health methods of collecting the waste, especially that we deals with a different way. This is cause some pollution, some other troubles, and also another for the sanitation that we have. We have a very bad sanitation, and we have a poor programs in order to provide a salty water, salty and renewed water. This is a main challenge in Baghdad, actually, and we need to provide some solutions, especially for the sanitation crisis, to face this challenge and to jump over it. On the other hand, we have the lack of the vegetation areas in Baghdad. This affects the nature of the capital city and the nature and sites that, of course, face some a big challenge. And also for that, regarding water scarcity, we need to provide a better methodology to you for the better water usage, and we need to provide a program for the water management waste. And I will take in considerations the policies and the solutions that we need in terms of all the programs, strategies that we need to adapt to solve these problems. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. We will continue now with another Arab city in the west end of the Arab world, also the gate to the Mediterranean that we were talking before, the city of Tanger. Mayor Limuri, where is Tanger in this universal quest to fight climate change?
Good morning, everybody. Regarding Tanja city, well, Tanja, it is located in the north of Morocco, and it links Africa, Europe together. We have 1,370,000 population, and it has located on the Mediterranean and on the White Sea, and also we face some challenges regarding the locations in terms of climate change and drought. We face a lot of drought and some lack and scarcity of the natural resources. Regarding the degradations, the governmental degradations happened. We have faced some, and also that affects with the Spanish and Portuguese. For a jump over those challenges, that the government adopt a multiple of strategic solutions that based on a holistic vision to provide a robust urban cities. Regarding the water, we have issued a very milestone programs to treat water, and it is one of the most important programs that we provide. We have treated the water in Tanger. We today have 95% of all the vegetation area, and we provide irrigation system throughout our treated water for those vegetation areas as well. We have increased the dams that we have, such as dams Abril and Ibn Battuta dams, to host collect a good amount of water, and today we have between Tanja and between the dams roads. We have linked together roads to go there by vehicles and cars. This is happened in order to link as well the dams through our canals, special canals. On the terms of the drought and the faults that we have, Tanja works in order to establish a new station to stop all the floods. And we have provided a new plans to take under a serious considerations all the modern programs and new mechanism that we provide. As you know that Tanja, it is located on the coast, and we have a very amount of rain. When we have a precipitation, we collect the number of precipitation, especially for the our rainwater. We collected in order for the growth and development areas. We have now the 76% of precipitation, and we have collected the NUM, and we monitoring all the station of those for the precipitation water, and as well as we have a collaboration between all the organizations in order to enhance the productivity among the youth and the citizens there. One of them integrated programs that we are provided by our council makes as Tanja as a role model to provide the best experience how to combat climate change and how we based and stand fast on all the changes with our very urban infrastructure. Thank you so much.
We'll now hear from our European mayors, starting with the city of Köln in Germany. Tell us a little bit about your city, but mostly about what your city is doing in this climate field.
Yeah, thank you. So the question is, what's the contribution of Cologne is to stop global warming? And the second question, how can we protect the city and the citizens against the outcome of global warming, flood, heat, and droughts? And the third point is, so we are in the center of a lignite coal area. So since 150 or more years, so there's lignite coal mines just around Cologne, and then there was a strong movement now since more than 10 years to step out of coal in Germany. Not only from nuclear power, also to step out from coal in energy production. And so there were big manifestations because that are mines, and in the western part of Cologne, the people have to leave their villages or their cities in order to grab the coal. And there was a big movement. And so in this time, in 2019, Cologne declared climate emergency, because we had this movement 6 years ago, and so now climate protection was recognized in the city of Cologne as a top priority. That was adopted by the city council, and we would like to achieve climate neutrality in energy and heat in 2045. That was a point. And we created also climate council with experts to reach the goals, and they came from various fields. And then two things happened. First, we had a big flood disaster in 2021 in the summer. So 220 people died in the Cologne region. It was a big disaster, and that was a wake-up call, the last one we had. And then there was a petition in our city that was, the organization was an NGO called Klimawende Köln, so Climate Change Cologne, and they asked for climate neutrality in 2030. And this petition was signed by more than 30,000 citizens in Cologne, and that means by law, if the city council doesn't adopt this petition 100%, there will be a referendum. And both sides, the city of Cologne and also the NGO, were afraid to lose the referendum. And then we started a negotiation processes, because we, as city of Cologne, and we also have a city-owned energy company, so which 3,000 people are working, and it's deliver energy for the city, but also for the region. So there was a mediation processes for more than 1 year, and the result was then we get climate neutral in 2035. Because, by example, we have a big power plant in the north of Cologne where the industry is of lignite coal, and as city of Cologne it was not possible to stop the energy production till 2030 and also to create alternatives. So that was a point where we stand in 2021, and so also the new city council made new programs. So Köln Klimaaktiv contains concrete measures to reduce CO2 emissions. And always the citizens' participation was an integral part of it. So we adopted new building guidelines, so energy efficient and climate neutral construction was on the hand. And it applies to all municipal buildings, schools and facilities. So this mediation was from climate change in Cologne. Was a big step forward, because everything was so we have to act. Our citizens asked for this, and not the politics, not the administration. And the biggest point was that we created a heat pump, a big one in the Rhine, and it's the biggest heat pump in Europe. So we build it right now, and it provides heat for 50,000 households in our city. That was one point, and the one second most important, also important point. So 11 on each year till 2035, 11,000 roofs where we put solar thermal, so solar thermal power or photovoltaic on it to produce warm water or electricity, and that was the most important points. And there is also a monitoring for this, so to reach the goals. And if the goals were not reached, so Klimawende Köln, climate change Cologne, they are allowed to start a referendum. So we know what to do until 2035. So I think that's very important, not only to make decisions and say, yeah, sometimes we will do this and this. So we have concrete steps, and we have a monitoring. Are we on the right way? And and there were researchers, and they say, it's ambitious, but we can manage it. But what we need is money from the state. So, by example, for the big heat pump, so the city of Cologne can't pay it itself, and our power, Rhine Energy, so the power company, so we are dependent from European money and money from the state in order to reach these goals. Thank you.
Thank you. And we come to the end of this first round with the city of Turku in Finland.
2017 in my city, and we have worked ever since very much with the climate issues. Though we were doing a lot of things before that, we were having an ambitious goal before that, but 2018, the City Council accepted unanimously the goal to be carbon neutral city by 2029, which is the year when my city is celebrating its 800 years anniversary. We are located in the southwestern coast of Finland, surrounded by the Archipelago Sea, which is part of Baltic Sea. Baltic Sea is very shallow, It's very polluted, one of the most polluted seas in the world. So that's why we are affected also quite a lot about the impacts directly, what the climate change is about at the moment. Archipelago Sea is very close to us, and while the winters are not very cold anymore in my part of Finland, even though they are still in Lapland, but in my place, they don't, the soil doesn't freeze anymore. It's not frozen, so when the rains come, the rains are more frequent, the fertilizers come from the fields to the sea, and it gets even more polluted, and we are in a lot of discussions around it. So that's why this being part of global frontrunners in climate actions has been very, very important for us. And what we have done so far is that we have already reduced our emissions by nearly 70%. So we have actually done a great deal. We've already changed our energy systems from fossil fuels to renewables, and that has been the greatest and most biggest success that we have done. And I will talk about a little bit one example later on today, but let's leave that there. That's because in all big cities in Finland, our citizens have the lowest emissions per capita also in Finland, and that's something I'm really, really proud of. But because everything what cities do, we have local impact, we have national impact, and we have global impact. And that is not possible if we work only alone. And I think it's very, very important to stress here that all these actions and everything what we do in collaboration. We collaborate with our residents and businesses regionally, with other municipalities, naturally, of course. We collaborate with our Finnish government. We collaborate with the European Union, international organizations like UN. And of course, I'm actively collaborating within city networks where the ICLEI has been the most important for us for years already, for decenniums, I would say. At the moment, I'm serving as the first vice president of ICLEI. And what is ICLEI? ICLEI is a city network for local governance, global one. We are having members, more than 2,500 globally, all over the world, in each continent, in 125 countries. We are representing about 1/4 of the population, global population, in terms of the voice that we are speaking of. And I would like to stress that this work has been for us very crucial. It has helped us to formulate our climate plans to be concrete according to science, so that we really know that what we are doing is having an impact and effect in reducing our emissions. So that's where I want to just encourage everyone to find the right networks where you can actually learn, be part of the actions, share your own experiences, but also get that advice and the support that you might need in your actions. Whatever it is, adaptation, mitigation, circularity, these are all the combination. I want to end this discussion, this part of the discussion here, that leave you in thinking about that. It's not only reducing emissions, it's also about the biodiversity, strengthening the biodiversity, as well as using the resources wisely.
Almost 160 cities that exceed 1 million or our national capitals. I very often participate in discussions about climate change, and one of the interesting things about this position is that at every step I'm surprised by how wickedly complex the issue is, much more than meets the eye. So when I entered this panel, I thought we would be talking a lot about mobility, about cars and metro systems and other things, and for example, we haven't mentioned it. I'm sure you're all working on it, but it's interesting that it did not come up. Instead, we had some of the sometimes overlooked issues really to the front. So for example, when the mayor of Baghdad talks about the treatment of waste and water, And we tend to forget that methane emissions from badly treated solid waste are a very serious contributor to climate change. Or when the mayor of Tanja talks about the whole cycle of water and the situation about water scarcity. A topic, by the way, in which the Arab world is an absolute leader, developing technologies and best practices because they have been actually for millennia dealing with water scarcity, but in particular now building huge cities like this one where we are in actually very arid conditions, right? Or when the mayor of Köln talks about, brings this very important issue of climate justice and a fair transition. Yes, we don't like coal, but we know that people live in industries that are related to coal. We cannot just ignore them. We have to take them into consideration. Even the wonderful example, which I was not aware of, about how warming has a direct effect on how many fertilizers find their way to the sea, as the mayor of Turku was telling us, right? And how then unexpectedly the sea pollution is becoming even worse because of the change in temperatures. All of this shows us how incredibly complex climate change is, how there is no silver bullet, there's no one measure or one topic, and how difficult it is for mayors, right? You've got a really complex job in this area. Let me now bring some specific questions to you, mayors, that maybe can bring a little bit more light about how this looks in detail. Starting with the mayor of Mayor Ammar Moussa Kazem from Baghdad. What sort of precautionary measures is your city already undertaking in this context, in this really difficult and challenging context that you explained of a mega city of 10 million people in a very arid area and in all the conditions that you already told us about sanitation and the rest? What precautionary measures are you putting in place?
Thank you so much. You mentioned I mentioned in the first round about Baghdad, what we faced in Baghdad, but now we are working on a real war today regarding the West, and everybody knows that the gases that exploded by the West, and I say that Baghdad, they have 10 tons of the gas that extracted out of the West, and we have now considered as investment in order to burn those waste and to renewable into a clean energy, and we have a certain program to provide a natural environment. We're adapting a new technologies to prevent gas out of the West that generated every day. So we have other programs. Baghdad is considered as a two-part. We have programs. We have investment in these programs to implement these very important programs in Baghdad. As you know that we have in Al-Karkh, we have investment 3,000 tons of waste to generate a clean energy daily, and this is what related to the West and how we deal and process the West. The Green Belt is considered as a great project in Baghdad. We are working on it to reach a very highest level under the patronage of our government, and we are working on completing the programs with supporting the sanitation with the 4,000 square. So all the stations is to provide a drink water, sorry, not drink, for the soil water for the irrigation system. Regarding the vegetation area and the degradation, the drought, and we are trying to use a biggest area, and this was before 2003. It was, those areas was for the military sites, but after 2003 we start to change it and transforming into a forest and to expand the vegetation area. And also we adopt programs that to increase the trees, the greenery areas, and these vegetations as well to decrease the carbon emissions. And of course, and you know that the trees are exposed the O2, and they are breathing CO2, so we need to increase the plants, good trees among all different areas. And also we have a lot of small programs that under the municipalities in Baghdad are taking great steps to decrease the emission of carbonic emission and also to provide a renewable energy in all the facilities. Thank you.
I have a sort of voice of conscience here that tells me that we've made a small mistake, and I apologize to the audience here. When we speak, we should not have our headphones here, because that generates a little bit of noise. So just for the panelists to know, we need to properly take them off. I'm guilty as charts, so apologies to the audience. We're in a bit beyond our half time, so we still have time to discuss a little bit more. And I wanted to move on to Tangier, like many cities of the southern Mediterranean, facing all the challenges we've heard from his mayor about drought, climate change, urban resilience. But Tangier is getting ready to host a large-scale international events, such as like the 2030 World Cup. And that means that you will need to take action and plan and ensure sustainable, resilient infrastructure that can address these challenges in the prospect of a much bigger city, as it were, during the events. Tangier also is preparing for another event, which is the United Cities and Local Governments World Congress next year. And that shows how Tangier has been a very dynamic player in the world of city diplomacy. In the Mediterranean, African, Arab, European context, we often find ourselves in Tangier because it's a city that values city-to-city cooperation. So in this context, that you're preparing these big events, your city has these resilience challenges, what role do you attribute to decentralized cooperation, both North-South and South-South cooperation, in sharing best practices, in learning, accelerating the learning that your city needs to be more resilient and inclusive?
Thank you so much. Before I answer your questions, I need to mention and shed the light on the accomplishments that have been in Tangier, especially for the climate change. We have multiple programs, such as the project of waste, how we have wait for the burning waste, and this is in order to establish a certain stations to waste and burn and to recycle the waste, and also to increase and generate energy as well. And we are working on this project. Next year is going to be completed. And on the other hand, energy, we have 15% of the need of energy. It's taking from the solar energy development and active with a great transition that we are witnessing, especially for the urban cities, in terms of the climate change and the challenges with its sustainability as well. We are looking forward into a clear vision, and also this city are working between involving the social development and the social and the local community. Tangier looking, and it's become as a vital role in order to link political visions, and it has best practices between the different cities among different territories as well. We are Tangier structure a various components, and this happened throughout a great ambition in order to provide a strategic partnership and cooperations, signing agreements, and we are looking forward to provide a better project and on above everything, our priorities is the management of water. Water management, we are looking forward to adapt new projects and to link different units and organizations, for example, such as a strong city, mid city, and on the other, also another, the Council of the Africa and the Council of the Urban Cities in the Arabic cities. And Tunja, of course, is looking to host the 2026, a very great festival that's going to reflect cooperation between international agencies, and of course they're going to provide the COP EMA. And one of the main components and one of the main achievements that we are going to achieve, Tanja, it is not going to be in this work on those projects, but we are contributing in order to enhance protecting environment, sustainability, and of course we are working in another dilemma among all the territory and the local and international level. We have a clear vision adopted by the government, and we are looking forward to share the benefits among all the beneficiaries. We are working to share a plan and to provide and to train and to we are seeking funding as well. Funding is very important in order to focus on our projects and to renewable the green gas and green energy. Thank you. شكرا جزيلا
for this really inspiring remarks. I'd like to move back to the Burgmeister of Köln, of Cologne in Germany. Because you mentioned something that I found very inspiring. You mentioned the activity, the way in which Klimawende Köln have pushed you to action and have become your partners. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about how the citizens get involved in climate protection measures, but also, more importantly, is this a Cologne thing? Is there a universal principle here? Is there any advice you want to share with other mayors here about what role is there for citizens in this fight against climate change?
Yes, okay. Thank you. So we are triggered by the citizens. That's true. And it's since 600 years. So in 1396, the people from Cologne fled from the dukes and the kings. So we are the free city, and the Cologne citizens only accept the emperor, but no king. So you don't find any castle in our city, because it was a city governed, citizens governed city, and yeah, this is very important, that also the people come to the government and make proposals, and that's an exchange we learned for 600 years, and yeah, so we are triggered by the citizens, and but first of all, you talked about fair transition. Let me talk perhaps a few words to this, and climate. They've got serious problems, and and I think Europe and also the Arab world. So we, as energy with high energy consumptions, and you bring the oil, you bring the gas, and we have, yeah, we are responsible for the adaptation. What's happening in Africa? What's happening in in Latin America? So very important that the COP in Dubai created the Loss and Damage Fund, but I think it needs more money to support the people in Africa as well in Latin America due to the things happening. And what we need more, and it's also triggered by our citizens, is a fair transition. So what we need, fair prices for people of vulnerable groups in our city. And so that's very important, that the renewable energy we produce is be sold by our company also to a fair price to everyone. And yeah, that's a discussion we had. And so by Klimawende Köln, so climate change Cologne, it always involves, as well as the city, We have various opportunities for participation, and in working groups we are discussing those issues. And the second point is, a few years ago I talked a little bit about the flood disaster we have, and now the city of Cologne, we had a lot of flood disaster. The city on the river always have floods, and we started this process more than 20 years ago to protect the city from the water. So we know how high the water will be if the level of the river is 9, 10, 11, 12 meters. What will happen then, and what is with the critical infrastructure. And now, what we're doing now due to climate change, we started also a processes of citizens' participation. What are we doing with the heat, the floodings in our city, and what are the proposals from the citizens? I think that's a very important fact, also always to involve the citizens before things happen, because they have a lot of good ideas, and so we have several working groups where people can make proposals, they can make online proposals about this, and this will be also then later adopted by the city council in a program. So our city is built by the citizens and not by the government. So that's an important thing. And you can't make decisions in our city without asking our citizens before the decision making. That's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Mayor Arve, you have mentioned two things I would like to bring back to the discussion. The first one is the ways in which you bring business. So we just heard about citizens and their role, but what about business? How are you bringing in your city the partnerships or ways of working with businesses and other organizations that can support that goal, that ambitious goal of carbon neutrality by your 800th anniversary, 2029? So can you explain a little bit more in practice? How are you bringing them into this ambitious plan? And maybe connecting to this, or maybe not, but I was also, you said for many years, ICLEI has been so important for us. And you made a compelling case why ICLEI itself is important, but can you, maybe to your other mayor colleagues here, can you illustrate a little bit how Turku itself has benefited, and why are you so interested in contributing, why you are the vice president of ICLEI? How is your cities benefiting from such a prominent role in ICLEI?
Yes, two very big questions, and a lot of, how to say, weight in those issues. Starting from the businesses, we know in Turku that we cannot succeed with our accomplished. So while we started to be in the application for European Union 100 climate neutral and smart cities mission a couple of years ago, and we were learning about that process, how we actually did the agreement with the Commission, climate agreement, how to get those goals done. Of course, we have been working with the businesses earlier, we have networks, collaboration and such, but now within this process we actually created a new kind of way, and we created our local climate agreements with different businesses in the region. And we were very lucky that our biggest companies, in many ways, global international companies like Bayer, who is having a very big site in Turku, it's a pharmaceutical plant. We have a big shipyard, Meyer, actually a German-owned company, making the biggest cruisers in the world, which are sailing in the Caribbean Sea and Mediterranean Sea. So they wanted to be part of that, our ambitious goal, and they were setting their own climate neutrality targets accordingly, and they were the first ones to sign our contracts, our local climate contracts. And that was an example for many smaller businesses as well, and an example for other organizations. So at the moment we have nearly 50 local climate agreements with our businesses and organizations in the region, and more are to come. Very different variety from our city-owned companies like our city theater up to these big global companies like Byron Meyer and everything between. But which I'm very proud of is also that we have financial institutions there. For instance, the local bank is very committed working with us, but they have also their own ways how they are kind of, they as an organization have a smaller impact, but their handprint for climate emissions, CO2 emissions is actually quite big, because they are offering for their customers, for instance, green loans. So if you're actually doing an investment according to green investment terms, so you will get a little bit cheaper money. I think this, I've always found that very, very important to understand how the financial markets are working. There are different aspects, of course, how to finance cities who don't have these resources as much, but then again is also that how to make markets to work accordingly and to the same goals. And this green loaning is actually one of those things which I truly believe that it's helping companies also to understand, organizations to understand why these are important things, and they can use this as a tool. So this is kind of the model how we are building our local business collaboration. Then coming to this question about ICLEI and emphasizing the ICLEI's impact and meaning for our city. So we have been the member of ICLEI since 1990 something, nearly when the organization was established, and they have been supporting us with expertise throughout the whole time, and I think that's the biggest benefit that we have accomplished from ICLEI, that they supported our climate planning, how we actually ensure that our plans are according to science, that we are actually really getting things done with our actions, and at the same time sharing and understanding what other cities are doing around the world is also very, very important. Those kind of peer learning is one of the most important things that you can actually do. You see, you hear your colleagues, they're facing the similar kind of problems, challenges. They might have a different conditions in the different parts of the globe, but still we are having the same problems. And even though we cannot at home, even though I've been working a lot with Koloni. Koloni is, by the way, our sister city with Turku, so we actually do collaborate a lot. And a personal impact also, I want to give you an example. While being the vice president of ICLEI, been a lot of attending the COP meetings, UN COP meetings, starting from the Madrid, Chilean COP 25 last year. I was in Baku, and I had a privilege and possibility to also there to give an understanding to the national leaders what cities actually do need globally. So we have to solve these problems with financing, for instance. This is something that we actually really do. We do face those problems in Europe as well, but not to mentioning about the cities all around the world, especially in this global south, who are having a totally different kind of resources than we are having. And these are kind of things that I was able to discuss directly with the national leaders, but also with the big financial institutions, global financial institutions. And this is also very important, I think. Maybe with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor. And obviously, your last remarks are absolutely music to my ears. Metropolis, like every other network, is a huge believer in both points that you mentioned, that city-to-city direct learning is an accelerator of change of the first order of magnitude. It's a very different conversation where the academic expert or the multilateral institution expert goes and tells the city that's the best practice solution, then when a mayor tells the other mayor not just what the technical solution is, but also what the political intricacies, how did you convince your citizens, how did you tell your journalists, how did you convince your financial department to do this and not this other thing. That learning, city-to-city learning, which is what we're doing here really, is, I think, an accelerator in every area of city management, but particularly valuable in such an urgent issue as climate change. And your other point about elevating the voice of cities is also of utmost importance. We are constantly reminded that urban spaces, cities, produce 70% of the world emissions, which is true. It is true, and we just heard from the Burgmaster of Köln that we have responsibilities as consumers and as producers of non-clean sources, whether it's coal or it's gas or it's oil or other non-clean sources. All of this is true, but it's also true that if we agree that then a big part of the solution is going to be found in the urban spaces, in the cities, then we must make sure that funding is available. And we know that in many parts of the world, including in many parts of the Arab region and some parts of Europe, funding is woefully inadequate to the magnitude of the task ahead. So without unlocking this potential, without the voice of cities constantly reminding national governments and international institutions of this very simple fact, which is that the front line, the trenches, as it were, to use military language, of the climate change are precisely in urban management, and that's where the money needs to go if we want real action that has real effect. You know, without this constant reminder, without the cities being in all these spaces, reminding these ICLEI and United Cities and Local Government and so many other organizations, this will not just happen. National governments are very busy. They have many priorities, so we need to keep reminding them. So we're coming to the end of this session, and we come out of this with a call to responsibility and to action, but also with, I think, very inspiring insights. And there is only one theme I want to bring together from all these examples we've heard in the panel, which is how cities are turning vicious circles into virtuous circles. And we heard from Baghdad how we turn waste from a problem and a hazard, an environmental hazard, into a solution, an energy solution, a cleaner solution and in doing so, bringing along not only the winners, but also the losers or potential losers of it in its coal industry and others, and how we turn business into allies, as we heard in the case of Turku, not just seeing them as the problem, but also seeing them as how are you going to be part of the solution. So I'd like to thank our panelists, and maybe before we go to the final kind of picture, I will ask every one of you to join me in thanking them with a big round of applause for their very interesting contributions. Thank you, mayors. And just at the end of the session, I'd like to ask His Highness Engineer Salih Al Maktoum, Assistant Mayor of Riyadh, and Anas Al Moghairi, Director General of the Arab Urban Development Institute, to join us for the final picture and to thank them once again for having us here.
الحضور الكرام، ستبدأ الفقرة التالية بعد لحظات. يرجى التفضل بالجلوس. Ladies and gentlemen, the next session is about to start. Please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, the program will begin in 5 minutes. Please be seated. الحضور الكرام، ستبدأ الفقرة التالية.
Ladies and gentlemen, the second session will be starting. Please kindly be seated until the second session. ماشي يا عبد، هنبدأ دلوقتي. اتفضل، بارك الله فيك.
الحضور الكرام
Distinguished guests, the second session will be starting within a couple of minutes. Please kindly seated.
To start, please take your seats. الحضور الكرام ستبدأ الفقرة.
Distinguished guests, the second session will be starting within minutes from now. Please kindly seated.
Session is about to start. Please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Mr. Patrick Pennings.
Your Highness, Mayor of Riyadh, Prince Dr. Faisal Din Nayef, thank you so much for joining us for this session. I will not be alone on the stage. I would like to invite also the mayors of Ramallah, Mr. Issa Kassis, Mayor of Ramallah. Please give him an applause. Stefano Lorusso, Mayor of Torino. Welcome, Mayor. Mr. Predrag Puharic, Mayor of Sarajevo. Thank you, Mayor. And Mr. Mohamed Al-Salih, Director General of the Manama Municipality. Thank you for joining us. Now, this will be an interesting session, my dears. Not because digital transformation is the hype of the day, but it's also because all of our cities are directly confronted with digital transformation. So we really need to ensure that we follow the pace and that we are going to be able to look at what that means for all of us. This session will focus and delve into the digital transition in urban governance within European and Arab cities, addressing both its potential and its complexity. About success stories, we will also talk about the complexities that we are faced with. This is an exchange, so there is no need to brag about what we're doing. I think it's important to also be realistic about what we can do and what we can achieve in this exchange and in this change process. So we will talk about difficulties encountered along the way. We will also highlight significant opportunities the digital transition can offer for enhancing our urban governance. And let's face it, also with the previous session, digital transformation has an impact on the environment, and that can be positive or negative, and we will look into that as well. So we will foster this cross-regional dialogue between European and Arab cities, starting with our cities here. And I'm sure that in the audience, there's quite a number of other cities which are present, and I know they are, which have also experiences. The cities here are at different stages of their development. They also have to take into account the different realities that they are facing in order to be able to conduct this digital transformation. We will discuss, the key discussion points will be the smart infrastructure and sustainable urban planning. We will look into digital inclusion and equitable access to services. We will look into data governance, privacy, cybersecurity. We will look into public and private partnerships and funding models, but also in our cooperation with academic world. In some cities like Torino, there is a clear need and a clear wish to work together with the academic world. Now, and His Highness already highlighted that yesterday. The important thing is really the vision that we have. Where do we want to go? And that's also the role of the mayors in all of this. Which vision do we have for our cities, and how do we live up to it? And I think that's also going to be our starting point, taking this into account. Now, in order to do so, I will start by introducing each of the speakers before they speak. And I will start with the mayor of Ramallah, Mr. Issa Kassis, who is actually a banker and a financial expert. He started his career in HSBC, moved between Jordan and Palestine in several senior financial positions. He served as the CEO for the Palestine Mortgage and Housing Corporation, advisor to the governor, and board member of the Palestine Monetary Authority, financial advisor at Palestine Investment Fund, and many other responsibilities. So Mr. Kassis also served on the boards of many public and private companies, schools, and universities. Of course, Ramallah finds itself in a very particular situation, Mr. Mayor. So can you tell us a little bit about it and how the digital transformation helps you to go through these processes?
As a city under occupation, a municipality which is 115 years old, and a city that goes back into the biblical age, and New Ramallah was found in the 1500s. You see that digitization is one of the saviors, I would say, if properly used. And this goes into so many different ways and colors, and how practically you serve your society. Indeed, this requires an ecosystem that needs to be present before you, for many obvious reasons that take us to the word of resilience, which is something within our DNA, given that we live under occupation. So back to digitization. Yes, we use many, and in many fields. We use digitization. We digitize transactions just to make sure that we do it in a shorter, and the investment in human capital and in funding is to the minimum. This requires a lot of networking with our colleagues, partners, and friends around the globe, and that's why you see Ramallah very active to learn more and to put in practice areas whereby digitization is used at its best shape, not only in the financial term, but rather, for example, in less use of paper. Mostly, for example, now, we're working on attracting the youth, the younger generation. We have a young generation. I mean, our society is a young society. As I said yesterday in my 1-minute presentation, Palestine, 65% of the population in Palestine are below the age of 40. 50% are below the age of 25. And you see, if you want this new age group to be introduced into the future of the city, you have to get their buy-in. And we believe the digital age is their age, and that we have to listen indeed to what they want and try to tailor not only products, but ways to reach out to them, to attract them, to have them think twice before saying, what's in it for me? No, it has to do, everything has to do with you because you're part of it. So you see that everything we do in Ramallah goes within or through this corridor of digitization. Example, and here I close, we make sure that our 22 public parks, the city center, and the areas where the youth get together, and when I say youth, I say the age between 12 and 26, this is provided with free internet for them to use. And this makes them, closer to us. And I'll cover that in the next question. I don't want to take much of your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's already very much elucidating what the reality is. You mentioned something to me yesterday, which was we do not only use the digital world to download apps, but we also upload our reality. And that, I think, is a fantastic way of putting it, because it also basically means the digital world is not only to see what's out there, but also to bring out there what we face. I will go to Professor Stefano Lorusso, who is the mayor of Torino. I already presented you, Mayor. He's mayor. He was elected the first time in 2006 in the municipal council, re-elected in 2011, served as a Democratic Party group leader in the council until 2013. I'm sure that the persons that are in the room that are interested in your full CV can upload it easily. Now, in our preparatory talks, we talked about the Torino digital strategy and the digital strategy 2024-2028. And you, as a professor of engineering geology in the Department of Environmental Land and Infrastructure Engineering at the Politecnico di Torino, you're obviously also very interested in the cooperation with the academic world through this. So how, as a mayor, do you come to this digital strategy? How do you enforce, how do you make sure that this is something that the city goes for?
So let me to briefly thank you, Your Highness, for this kind of invitation to the city of Torino and all the panelists and our moderator. The question is a central topic in the strategy of the Torino, and I think for most of the cities. To be effective on a long term should be for all. What I mean, instead of Ramallah, in which we have a lot of young people, in Torino, as most of European cities, we have very, very growing, aging people. And those people are far from the digital strategies, digitalization of processes and services. So, as a mayor, as an administration, in our digital strategy 2024-2028, which is an official document that we set out with the help of many specialists, one of the key pillars, the first one, is the digital inclusion. What means that digitalization for the whole community is a task that should be supported by facilitators. So we have a widespread centers in the city that can help to aging people, the people that are not so used to use digital instruments to approach and to facilitate. And this is a very, very appreciated service for the population, and in my personal view, one of the first pillar, which is to bring together technology, high technology, and also technology for all. The second one is the data as a tool in order to make policy in a correct way. As politicians, this is also my background. I try to put my background, my scientific background, also in the political activity. But if we think there is a lot of not data decision making in the political decision usually. So The digitalization permits to us to manage a huge amount of data, to extract value from data, and to help politicians and administration to make the correct way, and to explain what are the decisions based on not the political approach, not only sensitive approach, but only by data. It is a very important output, especially for the traffic management operation, especially for what are the things that we are providing that are generating some conflicts among the population between different, for instance, land use or street use when we move to the ecological transition mobility. Of course, we have to explain and to explain and to explain. And data are fundamental. Digitalization is a very, very supportive in this kind of second pillar strategy. The third one is the security and resilience of our system. It is a fundamental task, especially in the modern data management for the public administration, to be safe and to be confident with the fact that the public administration is a safe system to maintain the personal data. And this is very important also in terms of psychological aspect about what is the rights of citizens in order to leave the data to the administration, to permit to the administration to manage the data in order to address the development strategy, for instance, the master plan, or what is the development area, what is the changing in the population, the habits of the population is really, really important to be safer and to be also feel as safer for citizens. And the fourth is, of course, to work hardly on what is possible to pass from the sheets, from the paper, to the digital services. This is another very important topic in order to save time, to permit that the people enjoy to stay at home. Of course, we have had, as many countries, the COVID-19, that was a huge transformation in the digital services, completely mandatory by the fact that we have no strategy, but it is induced by the fact that people at school start to have a digital lesson, and we start to have a lot of very great effort for the public administration to grow in the capacity to stay in the digital world. Of course, we have not to lose this kind of is a positive output of that moment, and we have to work on stressing it to consolidate the way in which we have to work. That is the fourth pillar of our digital strategy. Last but not least, as you mentioned, for us it's fundamental to stay on top of research and to work with academia. The top research, the top scientists with all the population. That is the role of the mayor, the role of the administration. It is not an academicians, it is not outside from the academic world. It is a bridge between these two worlds.
Thank you so much. I think the four pillars that you mentioned are actually all very crucial in any digital strategy that needs to be developed. When you speak about digitalization for all, digital inclusion and the digital gap are obviously very important issues that any mayor needs to be dealing with. Security and resilience, how can we build a digital world without trust, the trust of our citizens to believe in what we are doing? And as you say, the digital services and the security that goes with it is absolutely fundamental. I happen to be in Valencia in Spain with the blackout during 8 hours. We know what that basically means in terms of the security, and I think it's crucial. Thank you also for highlighting the cooperation with the academic world. I think we are in a permanent transition, also in terms of scientific knowledge, and I think it is crucial that we integrate the latest of the scientific knowledge in what we're doing. Predrag Poharic is the mayor of Sarajevo. He is not only the mayor of Sarajevo, but he was also a cybersecurity strategist. So you also come from a world that basically links this technological world with the political world. So Predrag Poharic is the mayor of Sarajevo and a recognized expert on cybersecurity, public policy, and digital transformation, with a career spanning from governmental, civil society, international sectors. He has worked a long time at the intersection of technology and governance to improve urban resilience, institutional transparency, citizen engagement, and prior to becoming mayor, he founded and led the Cybersecurity Excellence Center, the first CRT-type structure in Bosnia and Herzegovina, focused on protecting academia, independent media, and civil society. Now, this background, but also your commitment to civil society and using digitalization not as a, let's say, a goal per se, but digitalization as a tool. In a country that is in reconstruction, where the local legal framework is not always so easy because the city has to operate within a legal framework that is not defined by itself. So, Mr. Boharic, could you tell us a little bit more about how you deal with those complexities?
Hello, everybody. Firstly, I must say that in difference with other major cities or capitals in the world, Sarajevo has a very specific position, like the rest of the administration in Bosnia. For example, I'll just say that in Sarajevo, we deal with 5 levels of jurisdiction. So we have municipality, we have city, we have canton, we have entity, and we have state level. And on any of those levels, as you said, we lack reasonable legal framework dealing with data, dealing with digitalization, dealing, for me, one of the most important part is cybersecurity. So without having that Swiss cheese of a legal framework, for me, when I was looking into how the cybersecurity how can I present it to the public as something that it's not mythical, that's something that's not complex to use. We always come to the 2 things. One thing is civil society, which we all know in most of the transitional societies in developing countries usually takes up a lot of functions that should be done on the state or any other government level. So it's crucial that civil society is engaged in digital transformation, because it's now a nice buzzword, so it's a thing that we like to do. No, it's a tool, it's something that provides better value, provides better ROI, provides easier and I would like more quality of services to the citizens, but also to the politicians. When we talk about gathering data and that data-driven decisions, without politicians, my colleagues on that level, being aware that they can use the data to better inform themselves and to get decisions that are better informed, we will not do a lot of job. On the other hand, citizens, building a trust to the citizens, building, you know, we are digitally transformed, let's be honest. At least COVID done a lot of work for us, unfortunately. So in the matter of 24 to 48 hours, we transfer to online schooling, online businesses, online work. So we digitally transformed. Our vaccination data is in digital form. Our financial data is digital form. Our medical data is in digital form. So it's not that we are not digitally transformed. So now we have to say to our citizens, digitalization is a tool, as you said. So you have an issue in your local community. You have a new pothole. You have a public light that's gone. Just click in the app of the city, and we will know that you have an issue. And when we present that to the citizens, I think that we are doing a good job. And we can do a lot of it waiting for the legal framework to become real. And for me, that's something that raising of awareness and raising of will and trust is the most important thing, at least at the first stages.
Thank you so much. I think the data-driven decision-making will resound positively to many. You compared your legal framework in a complex society to a Swiss cheese. I don't know if there will be holes in it or not, but that I leave in the middle. The United Arab Emirates, if I read correctly, decided to use AI for the harmonization of legislation. I don't know if that would be any way forward in Bosnia and Herzegovina because of the complexity of the society. But I think what we need to really look into is the realities of the starting point that we have. If you are in a country that is in reconstruction, is a completely different matter. You've seen it we've heard it from the mayor of Ramallah. Sarajevo is in a different but still similar position because there is an ongoing conflict. Now, His Excellency Mohammed Al-Salih, Director General of Manama Municipality, you currently serve as Director General, Capital Municipality, Ministry of Works, Municipalities Affairs, and Urban Planning. You're in charge of the oversight of planning, organization, and management of human and financial resources, supervision of service delivery to citizens, the development of strategic plans as well on high-level objectives. Bahrain is obviously, and Manama, there are important changes in the build-up of the city. And one of the issues of digitalization is also to look into this build-up. How do we use digitalization in a urban setting? So please, your floor.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you for your introduction. And first of all, I'd like to thank Riyadh Region Municipality, headed by His Majesty Prince Faisal, for hosting this meeting. And as far as digitization is concerned, I think that it's safe to assume that we are all participating within in this project, but at different stages probably. Those cloud computing services. That allowed us an opportunity to communicate with other government entities and gain access to their information, which helped the coordination effort, which was previously more difficult and required a lot of coordination in order to achieve the results required. That also relieved us from the burden of having to serve our servers. So we used to host our own servers and have a dedicated team just to manage those servers, and we had to move with the technology and upgrade them every once in a while. Now we are free from that burden, and we can focus more on the services that can potentially serve our population. Another aspect is charging a government entity called the IGA, Information and E-Government Authority, with the overall strategy for the digitization in Bahrain in general. So what you have to do as a government entity is pitch your service to them, and they can study it and make sure that it is in coordination with the overall strategy of Bahrain and meets the security and safety needs of on their part. As an example, our latest system that we have is our change and violation detection system. Where the idea is quite simple, but it only became feasible due to the advent of artificial intelligence in recent years. It's based on the idea of taking a photograph of the whole built-up area of Bahrain, the whole landmass, in effect, of Bahrain, and bi-weekly, and comparing those two layers together, identifying the changes, cross-checking with what permits were issued, and then investigating the changes that happened, designating them as violations or small additions, and then taking the necessary steps. That system only became feasible because of the recent advent of artificial intelligence. Previously, we needed a whole team of inspectors just roaming around the streets and trying to find out what changes were made to the built-up area and what is in compliance with our building code. Now, they've been relieved somewhat of those responsibilities. The accuracy of the system is another important aspect. We started out with a relatively high percentage of accuracy. We started out with 85%, and now it's building. We're probably past the 90% mark. And in addition to the laborious work, we have exposed more, we are exposed more to whatever changes that are not visible previously, like walled fences or secluded areas that we can know what changes, what's happening there. What's left is the changes to the interior of the buildings, and there are some telltale signs that we can depend on. So it picks up the accumulation of building materials and on sites, and the accumulation of waste also. So that is a system that quickly the employees relied on, and has more advantages with the perception of fairness that the community that we're serving relies on. It's more transparent, it's more systematic, less human error. So we're quite happy with the digital transformation, and fortunate because we have a population which is very accepting of digital transformation. They rely on that, the accuracy of the system.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think what is important also, the digital transformation is transformation. So basically what we're living is this transformation. It's a volatile world. It's not something that is fixed and you can take the frame and say, this is how we are going to apply it. It has to be applied consequently in the different sectors. Now, if I may, Mr. Cassis, have you been working also with artificial intelligence, as being said? How far are you with the use of tech in Ramallah, and what are the challenges that you face in that?
Thank you. Yes, indeed. We have a homemade a GIS system that we integrated with it, a system whereby we figure out the level of satisfaction of the services that we provide. And we tried to link through AI logic how can we reach out to the highest satisfaction for residents in order for them in return to pay their dues on time, hence secure the sustainability of the municipality. And what we did, for example, we located on GIS all the trash bins in the streets. And we have the number of residents, each in his or her apartment or a residential area, commercial, whatever. And then we put the logic between the two and tried to figure out how many people who are not paying their dues on time. This is one logic. And the other logic, where they live and the number of trash bins there, and accordingly the number of complaints that come up from there. And beautiful results came up, so that you see in a glance the areas that are less satisfied and the areas that are better or much more satisfied. And if you dig deep into this, you see that those satisfied, they have their streets recently done, maintained, paved, etc. This brought us to a conclusion as, of course, caregivers also, because in a small city like Ramallah, living the challenges and living under extreme odds circumstances, the least that you can provide is a standard of living. And therefore, this commitment to the dues came out as a beautiful result of utilizing and using AI, especially that the means are very limited. And I'm not talking about rocket science here. I'm just, again, using smart cities concept of utilizing the available resources at its best.
Thank you. That sounds amazing. And it reminds me of the presentation we had yesterday in plenary on Green Riyadh, where, in fact, the impact of the local population is also measured and important for the development of a concept, of a vision that does not only appeal to the global world, but also appeals to its local citizens. And I think that's important to have this citizen interaction, yes, where you can immediately play on. Now, Professor Lorusso, but can this digital technology truly be inclusive? How can cities really facilitate access to new technologies for those facing the greatest challenges? I think that's a key mission.
Yes, it is. We set out several actions. One of the most important, especially for ancient people, to stay in municipal sites where we have, with association students, university students, the explanation of the service to the people. It was really important for many things. Of course, the feeling of inclusion to be part of a transition, not to have fear about the transition. Second, it is important because those persons that usually live alone and are also outside from common way to socialize are in context in which it is possible instead to socialize and to meet young people. Third, for young people is an opportunity to explain to other people and to make this kind of cohesive way the society. For the administration is a very good advantage because we reduce a lot the asking to the municipal offices about clarification and so on and so on. So it's very challenging. Of course, it's an experimental site. We use the fine vertical European funds in order to support this kind of activity, but we are really satisfied. People are enjoy it, on both sides, and it is, my personal opinion, one of the top experience, top best practice that in this kind of strategy it is necessary for a city like Torino, but maybe also in other places. How is important respect that to stay on top in technology? Of course, we have to stay on top in technology. We have different examples. We are stressing and working on the digital twin of the city. It is one of the top-level projects that we designed with the Politecnico di Torino, which is the digitalization and to work with the AI over the normal management of the city on digital twin. So it's important to have such kind of best practices, best experience for meetings, for scientific meeting, and so on in the academic way. But, as I mentioned before, it's important also that the digital revolution, the digital transition should be really for all, or almost for the most people, not only for young people, skilled people, and people that speak very, very well English. It is not so common to discuss about this, but in my personal opinion, is one of the key pillars to bring cities in the new era.
Thank you very much for that. when I heard Mr. Cassis speaking about a very young population of Ramallah, I'm not sure about the situation in Torino, but Italy has the fastest aging population.
Yes, it is.
And the percentage of older people and the integration of older people seems to be a great challenge as well. Are there any initiatives that focus on older citizens? I'm using my time here because I'm the Secretary General of the European Seniors Union, so I'm putting in this question while everyone's watching.
I think that Torino is on the same stage of many Italian and European cities, as well as you say, we have the growing, rising gap of the aging people that has been compensated by immigration, and so it is the strong, intense change. Today, the panel is related to the digital transition, digital revolution, but that kind of changing in the demographic setting is very impressive in terms of impact on the public services, in terms of demand that as cities we had. Of course, it is a very big phenomenon, and I hope that, and I think that we have to work to bring the digitalization also as a helping factor to avoid the problems and to enhance the opportunity. I think that cities, if we think, are the places of the changing. We change the way in which we meet, the change in which we talk, the change in which we stay. The cities are the places of the opportunities. We capital of innovation. But I would like to pose, reading the motivation of the European Commission prize, they appreciate the fact that it is not only to be on top of the technology, but innovation is also social innovation, the way in which technological innovation brings together the community. That is the reason for what we are defined as a European capital for this year of innovation. So when we speak about innovation, we have to take these two things, to stay in a world that is really changing, to stay in a continent, in a country, in a city that is changing, the shaping, the demographic impact is really, really impressive. If you check what is the forecast for the next 10, 15 years, is an incredible situation, completely changing. So we have to stay in that way, and I think that digitalization can support the bringing to the future, that it is not worse, it is not better, we don't know, but is stressed by this kind of phenomena.
Thank you so much. It's also important we are all enthusiastic about our own city and our policies, so that's a good thing, because that allows us to have this vision and this looking forward. Mr. Puharic, considering now this Swiss cheese that you mentioned, the limited constitutional and administrative powers that Sarajevo has within Bosnia and Herzegovina's complex political structure, how can a city like yours enable or even accelerate digital transformation despite such constraints? It puzzles me. So,
before
please.
I answer that question, I just have to note regarding senior citizens that we in Bosnia don't have that problem. Our senior citizens, we have one of the largest rate of mobile broadband penetration in the world for the senior citizens, and they are using it very well. For example, their daily tests on COVID were delivered digitally through WhatsApp, through Viber, through email, and MFA and verification. We really didn't have that much issues with them handling that. So I must say, great job to our seniors, really. And regarding your question, with limited and complex administration, that doesn't mean that we are powerless. I think the best way, and we are trying to do it that way, is creating partnership with civil society, with academia, with the private sector, which is really important, and also in international organizations to create and pilot projects that will deliver services within the competencies that we do have. I will just say too, as an example, I would say a couple of projects that we are doing. First of all, and they are kind of all connected. First of all, we created a live, real-time map of pollution sources in our city because our air quality and our environmental issues are very important to the Sarajevo. So we created that just as an information service to the citizens to know the state of the air quality in every part of the city. So we are trying to focus on a really small region, so that's, and when you have that live information, that's something that could be very useful to make a decision as a citizen, should you go out or stay in home that hour. But in connection with that, we have a couple other initiatives. For example, we are now trying to connect our public traffic control with AI. So when in some areas of the cities we saw that the traffic is a large pollution source, to try to limit traffic or reroute traffic around that area. That's something that then can show how AI can be used in.
Thank you.
And I would say that's the situation that speed of decision making is something that's not achievable in human terms. Another thing that, and I must emphasize that was initiative that was developed, and all of this is done with the various European agencies, even now, but connecting that with AI, connecting that with pollution is something that I think is a next step. So I think the biggest takeaway is that cities should not just control. They should lead, and they could lead if they have a vision and if they are open to collaboration.
Thank you so much. And the mayor of Madrid, who is sitting in the front row, will be able to report back to our common friend that I did ask a question about senior citizens. So I'm just joking, but His Excellency Mohammed Al-Sali, because I'm asking you a little bit of a vision, that is, what additional services can be integrated and linked to the projects that you're already managing? What is your vision for that?
Well, I firmly believe that the potential for use of these systems is only limited by a person's imagination. So the photographs that I mentioned and the system that I mentioned previously started life with the Survey and Land Registration Bureau. But due to the overall strategy that we have, the municipality could make use of those procured resources by another government entity. And when the companies had a look at our different programs, they mentioned the potential use of these systems in other disciplines, like, say, the afforestation. Physical planning and city planning is an obvious choice, but they mentioned a previously ability of the program that we couldn't imagine, like counting the number of trees. In Bahrain, we have an afforestation initiative, and we had to, in order to tabulate all of the afforestation that is happening, we had inspectors going on the ground and counting the number of trees and trying to identify the living and the dead of them. That was available with a license that was already procured by a different government department. So the pooling of resources is one of the advantages of this system.
Thank you so much. As we see, ladies and gentlemen, the digital transformation is not only about huge projects, it's also about day-to-day living. It's also about incremental changes. I'm sure that you're still hungry for more information, and I can tell you that there will be a forum for local action organized by the Moroccan Association for Cities in a workshop afterwards. But my summary of the key takeaways, if you like, is that there is a strong commitment for this digital transformation, that we have no choice. We have to be part of it. Every one of our cities is part of it. And exchanging on this has been a very useful activity. So thank you very much. And I would like to ask for a big round of applause for our panelists, if I may. Thank you so much. And I would then like to invite His Highness Mayor of Riyadh, Prince Dr. Faisal bin Ayaf, to the stage. And please join us for a last round. Thank you so much. Thank you.
you.